We begin tonight in Broome County, where the second day of trial for Macaulay Saunders continued. Saunders is on trial for allegedly firing at a special investigations unit in 2020. Tony's Kyle Spisak was in the courtroom today with the details.
Macaulay Saunders stood on trial Wednesday after a previous plea deal was revoked pertaining to an incident in September of 2020 when officers had a warrant for his arrest. Investigators all claimed that they had received information that Saunders could be found on a motorcycle in the area around Wilson Hospital of Johnson City. Following identification of Saunders, investigators say they followed the motorcycle and attempted to approach Saunders, where he began to flee on foot. Investigators Wilcox, Zukuski, and Ostanek pursued Saunders when Zukuski claimed Saunders reached into a bag, grabbing what he suspected was a firearm, before leaving the bag and heading down a driveway where he would allegedly scale a fence to evade police. Saunders would be taken down by a police canine, and when investigators approached Saunders, they allegedly saw a gun and heard a round fired off. Saunders was taken to Wilson Hospital and treated for his injuries. While in his hospital room, investigators Zukuski entered the room as he stated he was the only one there that could file charges against Saunders, and it was his responsibility. Body cam footage then shows Saunders and Zukuski exchanging words and Saunders pointing a finger gun at officers in the room. The defense is arguing that Zukuski was escalating the situation and that prior to the pursuit, Saunders could not be identified because he was wearing a motorcycle helmet. For more information, visit our website, wbng.com. Kyle Spisak, 12 News, Broome County.